Please subscribe to this channel Valentino Stories and don't forget to like and share. Now sit back and enjoy this life story. Hugo was not just brilliant, he was a genius. His name rang across the school compound. Teachers loved him. Students respected him. No one came close to his academic performance. Born into a poor farming family, Hugo's parents were quiet, honest people who believed in hard work and prayer. Their one dream was to see their only child become a lawyer. He was his family's hope. He didn't have new clothes or shoes, and sometimes he went to school hungry, but he still managed to come first in class. Government secondary school Abalo was not a disciplined school. Students came to school whenever they wanted, and no one was punished for lateness. Some students even missed classes for days. There were fights almost every week, and some boys were feared because they were part of cult groups. The school was poorly managed, and the teachers only did the bare minimum. Because of the lack of discipline, cult boys walked around the school freely. They wore flashy clothes, used expensive phones, and moved in groups. Most students feared them. If you didn't join them, they could beat you or steal from you. Some students joined just to feel safe. Hugo knew he didn't want to be part of them, but he also didn't want to be their victim. He decided to be smart. He started helping some of them with their schoolwork. He explained mathematics, helped with assignments, and even gave them notes to copy. One of the cult boys, Chuka, once told him, "Hugo, you day too wise. If na you, I for don join since, but you sabi avoid us well." Hugo laughed. "I just want to read and pass. I know one wala. Na why we like you," Chuka said. "You day help us, you know form boss." With time, Hugo became close to many of the feared boys. He walked with them, talked with them, but he never went to their meetings or followed them after school. Some people believed he was one of them, but the truth was, he only wanted peace. One afternoon during break, Hugo sat under a tree reading his government textbook when a classmate, Ada, walked up to him. "Hugo, why you day always follow those boys? People go think say you don join cult." Hugo looked up and smiled. "Ada, I no join anything. I just day protect myself. If I no follow them small, dem fit start to disturb me." "But you fit get into trouble," she said. "People day fear you now. Even I day fear small." Hugo sighed. "I no get choice. I no fit fight them, and I no one be their enemy. This na the only way." Ada looked worried but nodded. She knew Hugo was right. The school was a jungle, and everyone had to find a way to survive. Despite everything, Hugo never allowed these distractions to affect his studies. He continued to shine in class. During WAC, he got all his papers in one sitting. His teachers were proud, and his parents cried tears of joy. The principal once said, "Hugo is the pride of this school. I wish we had more students like him." As he walked home with his result slip in his hand, Hugo felt proud. He knew he had survived one battle, but another one waited for him: university. He held his result tightly, looked up at the sky and said, "I will make it. I must make it." That night at home, his parents cooked a small celebration meal. There was laughter in the house for the first time in a long while. "Our son will be a big lawyer," Mama Hugo said with joy. "Yes," Mr. Okafor added. "We will sell our last piece of land if we have to. Hugo must go to university." Hugo smiled but felt the weight of their sacrifice. He knew he had to stay focused. There was no room for failure. He looked at his parents and said, "Thank you, Mama. Thank you, Papa. I will not disappoint you." The journey had just begun. Hugo sat quietly on a wooden bench outside their small mud house, staring at the sky. The stars blinked at him, and the cool night breeze brushed against his face. He had just finished reading, and the dim kerosene lamp flickered beside him. The farm work that day had been hard. His hands still ached, but he didn't complain. His dream of becoming a lawyer kept him going. It had been 3 months since he graduated from secondary school. While many of his mates had already moved to the city or started learning trades, Hugo stayed back in the village. not because he wanted to but because there was no money. His parents, Mr. and Mrs. Okafor, were poor farmers. They worked from sunrise to sunset just to feed the family. School fees were too much for them. Still, Hugo didn't lose hope. Every day, he woke up early to follow his father to the farm. The walk was long and the sun was always hot, but he didn't complain. As they walked through the narrow bush path, Hugo would often say, "Papa, one day, I will be the one helping you rest." His father would smile and reply, "Amen, my son. I believe in you." On the farm, Hugo did everything. He weeded the land with a hoe, planted cassava and maize, and carried water from the nearby stream to wet the crops. Sometimes they worked for other farmers just to earn extra money. Hugo never refused. Even when his friends passed by and laughed at him, he ignored them. In the evenings, after their meal of gari and soup, Hugo would bring out his old textbooks and notes. The books were worn out, some had missing pages, but he held them like treasure. He read late into the night, using the weak light from their kerosene lamp. His mother, Mama Hugo, often watched him with concern. One night, she walked into his room and sat beside him. "Hugo, you need to rest," she said softly. "You work too hard." He looked up and smiled. "Mama, I can't stop. Time is going. I must be ready when admission comes." She touched his head gently. "God will bless your efforts," she whispered, her eyes filled with tears. She knew he deserved a better life, but they had so little to give. Hugo had already written the JAM exam, the one required for university admission. He prayed every night for a good score. Sometimes he went to the village church just to kneel and beg God to help him. He didn't want riches. He just wanted a chance. Then, one sunny afternoon, everything changed. Hugo had just returned from the farm and was washing his muddy feet when a young boy from the next compound ran in, holding a white envelope. Hugo. Letter from the university." Hugo's heart jumped. He grabbed the envelope with trembling hands and tore it open. His eyes ran through the lines quickly. "You have been offered admission to study law." "Jesus. Mama. Papa," he shouted, jumping up and down. I got in. He ran into the house like someone who had gone mad with joy. His mother dropped the bowl she was washing and rushed to him. "What is it?" she asked, her voice shaking. "I got admission to study law." Hugo shouted again, waving the letter. "University of Nigeria. I passed. I got in." Mama Hugo screamed and hugged him tightly. Tears flowed freely. Mr. Okafor came out and saw the scene. When he heard the news, he shouted, "Praise God!" and lifted his son up in the air. For the first time in a long while, the house was filled with laughter, dancing, and joy, even though there was no music playing. But after the joy came silence. Hugo sat with his parents that night, looking at the admission letter again. "We have to pay school fees," his father said quietly. "There's also money for textbooks, clothes, and food. How will we manage?" They were silent for a while. Then Mama Hugo spoke. "We must not let this chance go." The next few days were hard. They went from house to house, asking relatives and neighbors if they could help. Some gave a little. Others said, "We wish we could help, but we are also struggling." Still, Mr. Okafor did not give up. One evening, after walking around the village all day, he called his wife and son. "I will sell a portion of the farm," he said. "It's a small price to pay. Our son must go to school." And he did. He sold part of the land he had inherited from his father, land that he had worked on for years. It broke his heart, but he knew it was for a good reason. With the money, they bought Hugo's school supplies. A small box, some clothes, a few notebooks and pens. They paid the school fees and gave him just enough money to survive until the next holiday. The night before Hugo was to travel, the family didn't sleep much. Mama Hugo cooked his favorite meal, yam porridge with plenty of palm oil and vegetables. They sat together, eating quietly. No one said much, but their hearts were full. Early the next morning, Hugo prepared to leave. He wore a clean shirt and trousers. His father carried his box, and his mother held his hand tightly. They walked to the main road where the bus to the city would pass. When the bus finally arrived, Hugo turned to his parents. Mama Hugo looked into his eyes, tears rolling down her cheeks. "Hugo, promise me you won't let anything take you away from your path," she said, her voice shaking. "I promise, Mama," he replied, also holding back tears. His father added, "Stay away from bad friends. We are praying for you. Go and make us proud." Hugo hugged them both tightly. Then he climbed into the bus and sat by the window. As the bus started moving, he waved at them, watching as their figures grew smaller and smaller. He was not just going to school. He was carrying the dreams of his family, their prayers, their hopes, and all their sacrifices. He knew the journey ahead would not be easy, but he also knew that he must succeed. As the bus drove past the hills and trees, Hugo leaned back and whispered to himself, "I will not fail. I will not disappoint them." The road to his dream had begun. The university campus was like another planet to Hugo. Everything felt different. The buildings were tall, the roads wide, and the people plenty. There were students everywhere. Some wore glasses and carried big books. Others walked in groups, laughing loudly like they owned the place. Hugo looked around with wide eyes. He had never seen such a large crowd before. Back in his village, everybody knew everybody. But here he was just another face in the crowd. On his first day, Hugo woke up early, took a quick bath, and wore the best clothes he had. He carried a nylon bag with a pen, notebook, and his admission letter. He wanted to arrive at his department early to make a good impression. But as he walked around the campus, he got confused. Every building looked the same. He didn't know where to go. He stopped and looked at his paper again, trying to find the direction. Just then, a girl wearing jeans and a backpack walked past him. Hugo quickly turned to her. "Please excuse me," he said, his voice low. The girl stopped and looked at him kindly. "Yes. Can I help you?" "I'm looking for the law department," Hugo said. "You're new here, right?" she asked with a smile. "Yes," he nodded. "It's my first day." She laughed gently. "No problem. Follow me. I'll take you there." As they walked together, Hugo felt relieved. He thanked her again and again. She introduced herself as Ruth, a second-year student studying English. When they got to the law department, Ruth waved goodbye. "Good luck, Hugo. You'll be fine." Hugo smiled. "Thank you so much." That day, he attended his first lecture. The class was full, and the lecturer spoke fast. Hugo took notes quickly, though he didn't understand everything. He promised himself to study harder. The following weeks were busy. Hugo tried his best to adjust. He woke up early, went to lectures, stayed in the library, and spent his evenings reading. He didn't make many friends, but he talked to a few classmates. Most times he sat alone, focused on his books. But the more he tried to concentrate, the more he noticed things happening around him. Some students came late to class and still sat in front. They spoke loudly and even argued with the lecturers. Others skipped lectures entirely but still passed their tests. Hugo heard stories about runs, shortcuts students used to pass or survive. Some paid money. Others joined groups. Dangerous groups. One evening, just 2 weeks after he resumed, Hugo stayed late in the library reading. He packed his books and walked alone to his hostel. It was dark, and the streetlights weren't working well. Suddenly, 3 boys stepped out from behind a building and blocked his path. "Hey you new boy," one said with a smirk. "Give us your phone." Hugo was shocked. "Please, I don't have money," he said quickly. "Who talk about money?" another one said. "We say your phone." Hugo tried to resist, but before he could speak again, they pounced on him. Punches landed on his face, and he fell to the ground. They kicked him, took his phone, and walked away laughing. With pain all over his body, Hugo managed to get back to his hostel. His shirt was torn and his lips were bleeding. His roommate helped him clean his wounds. You need to report this, the roommate said. The next day, Hugo went to the school security office. He told them everything. Where did it happen? The officer asked. Near Faculty of Arts, Hugo replied. Next time don't walk alone at night, the man said coldly. Be careful. That was all. No action. No justice. Hugo walked away feeling worse. That night, he lay on his bed in silence. He thought of his parents, of the farm, and the land his father sold. He thought of the promise he made to his mother. I can't tell them, he whispered to himself. They have already done too much for me. The next day, Hugo used part of his feeding money to buy a small used phone. It had a cracked screen and weak battery, but it could make calls. That was all that mattered. He needed to talk to his parents. But now he had even less money for food. Hunger became his close friend. Sometimes he drank water and slept. Other times, he begged for leftover food from his roommate. But he didn't complain. He was determined to survive. Then he remembered what helped him in secondary school. Back then, some boys were feared because they were part of a secret group. Hugo never joined them, but he helped them with assignments and exams. They liked him because he was smart. He wasn't their friend, but they didn't harm him either. I can try the same thing here, he thought. Hugo started observing the boys who were feared on campus. They dressed loudly, had tattoos, and walked in groups. People whispered when they passed. Hugo knew they were cult members. Everyone feared them, even some lecturers. He started greeting them in class, offering to help with notes and assignments. He sat near them and laughed at their jokes. When they had birthdays or hangouts, he showed up, but never stayed too long. Hugo, you day show face oh, one of them said. I just day flow with una small, he replied, smiling. Sometimes they invited him to meetings, but he always found an excuse. I get test tomorrow, he would say. Or, I day go church. They laughed but didn't push him. One of the leaders, a big dark-skinned guy called Big Sam, noticed him. This Hugo boy get brain, he said one day. He day sharp. I like am. Na why we day protect am, another said. Him day useful. From that day Hugo's life changed. The same boys who beat him before now greeted him with respect. Nobody touched him. Nobody insulted him. In fact, when someone tried to collect his book one day, Big Sam appeared from nowhere and shouted, You touch am, you die. The boy ran off. Hugo smiled politely. Thanks, bro. You be our guy now, Big Sam said, patting his shoulder. Other students noticed the change. Hugo, you don join cult? A friend asked in class one day. Hugo laughed. No. I just day survive. Though he smiled on the outside, Hugo was afraid inside. He knew he was walking on a thin line. The cult boys liked him now, but what if he refused them too many times? What if he made one mistake? Each night before sleeping, he knelt by his bed and prayed. God, please help me. I want to finish school. I want to make my parents proud. He missed home. He missed the quiet nights in the village. He missed his mother's voice and the taste of yam porridge. Here everything was loud and fast. Everyone seemed to be fighting to survive. He was tired, but he didn't give up. Sometimes when he was alone, he remembered his father's words. Stay away from bad friends. And his mother's voice. Promise me you won't leave your path. Hugo had not broken his promise. Not yet. But he was close to the edge. The cult boys treated him well, but he saw their true faces. He saw the blood on their shirts after fights. He heard whispers about students who had disappeared. He saw fear in the eyes of those who crossed them. He knew he was not one of them. But he also knew he was not far. And so, he lived each day carefully, helping when needed, smiling when afraid, and praying when alone. He had hidden his light in the darkness. And in that darkness, he hoped it would not be swallowed. Emma and Hugo had been best friends since their first year in university. 100 level. They met during their first day of orientation. Hugo had helped Emma find his hostel, and since then, the two became inseparable. They did everything together, went to classes, studied, ate, and even shared secrets. Emma was fair-skinned, tall, and had a charming smile. He was also street-smart and could talk his way out of any situation. But deep down, Emma respected Hugo a lot. He saw him as the wiser one. Hugo, on the other hand, was brilliant. He always had answers to difficult questions in class. Even lecturers knew his name. But what made Hugo special was not just his intelligence. It was his heart. He was kind, calm, and always willing to help others. Their friendship was strong until one event changed everything. One sunny afternoon, Emma was walking back from class when a group of rough-looking boys stopped him along a lonely path behind the Faculty of Social Sciences. They looked like trouble. Some had dreadlocks, others wore dark shades, and their shirts were half-buttoned. Before Emma could say a word, one of them pushed him. "Bring your phone," the boy barked. Emma tried to run, but two others blocked him. They searched his pockets and took his phone, his wristwatch, and the little money he had. "Don't come here again," one of them warned before they walked away, laughing. Emma stood there, shaking. His chest was heavy, and his eyes were filled with tears. That phone was expensive. His mother had borrowed money to buy it. He felt angry, helpless, and ashamed. When he got to the hostel, he met Hugo reading on his bed. "Hugo," he said, tears rolling down his cheeks. "They took my phone. Those boys behind social sciences. They collected everything." Hugo stood up quickly and hugged him. "Calm down, bro. You're safe now. Don't worry, I'll handle it." Emma was surprised. "Handle what? These guys are dangerous." "Trust me," Hugo said and walked outside with his phone. Emma waited in the room, confused and anxious. He didn't understand what Hugo planned to do. About 30 minutes later, Hugo came back into the room. He was calm. "Your phone will be returned tomorrow," Hugo said. Emma looked at him like he was a magician. "How did you do that? Who did you talk to?" Hugo shrugged. "It's complicated." Emma pushed further, but Hugo avoided the details. "Let's just say I know someone who knows someone." True to his word, the next day, Emma received his phone. It was returned through a guy he recognized from the hostel. Nothing was missing, not even his SIM card. Emma was shocked. That evening, he sat on his bed, thinking deeply. The only explanation that made sense in his head was that Hugo was a cultist. He had always heard that cult boys had power. People feared them. They could beat people up and still walk freely. How else could Hugo get his phone back from those boys without a fight? Emma didn't ask again. He believed he had found the answer. Hugo must be in a cult, but he was just hiding it well. Days passed, but the idea refused to leave Emma's mind. Then something pushed him over the edge. He saw Hugo talking to one of the same boys who had stolen his phone. They were laughing and shaking hands like old friends. That was it. If Hugo can join and protect himself, Emma thought, then I need to join too. Emma didn't talk to Hugo about his decision. Instead, he went to a guy named Razor, one of the cult boys feared in their faculty. Razor had tattoos on his neck and scars on his hands. His voice was deep, and people avoided his gaze. Emma was scared, but he was determined. "I want to join," Emma told Razor one night behind the school cafeteria. Razor laughed. You want to join us?" "Yes, I'm serious. I want protection. I want power." Razor studied him for a while. "All right, you'll be tested. If you pass, we'll bring you in." Emma didn't know what the test meant, but he agreed. That night they beat him. It was called the welcome beating. He had heard of it, but it was worse than he imagined. For 15 minutes they slapped, punched, and kicked him. After that, they poured water on him and gave him a code name. White Wolf. The next day, Emma was limping. Hugo noticed it immediately. "What happened to you?" Hugo asked, rushing to help him. Emma forced a smile. "I'm fine." "Fine, Ku. You can barely walk. Did you fight?" Emma shook his head. "I'm fine, Hugo." But Hugo didn't believe him. He suspected something was wrong. Over the next few weeks, Emma's behavior changed. He started keeping late nights, missing lectures, and hanging out with known cult boys. Hugo watched quietly, hoping he was wrong. Then one night everything became clear. Hugo and Emma were in the room when Hugo saw a red scarf in Emma's bag, a color used by one of the cult groups in school. "Emma, what's this?" Hugo asked. Emma froze. He knew he had been caught. He stood up slowly and faced Hugo. "I joined," he said softly. Hugo's heart dropped. "You did what?" "I joined them, Hugo. The same group you're in. I know you've been hiding it, but I saw you with Razor. I saw how you got my phone back. Don't lie to me." Hugo sat down, shocked. "Emma, I'm not a cultist." "Stop it, Hugo. I saw you with him." "I know. Yes, I talked to Razor. But I didn't join. I only got close so they'd leave me alone. I needed a way to protect myself and others without crossing the line." Emma's face changed. "You mean you're not in the cult?" "No, Emma. I've always been careful. I never joined." Silence filled the room. Emma looked away. His hands trembled. I thought I was following your path." Hugo shook his head slowly. "Why didn't you just talk to me first?" Emma sat down. "I was scared. I didn't want you to deny it. I wanted to be strong like you. But now it's too late." Hugo stood up and walked to the window. "Emma, you've made a big mistake. These boys don't play. You can't just leave." "I know," Emma whispered. That night, both boys couldn't sleep. Emma lay on his bed, thinking of what his life had become. He remembered his mother, his dreams, and how everything was now at risk. Hugo, on the other hand, felt helpless. He wanted to help his friend, but he knew leaving a cult was dangerous, sometimes deadly. From that day their friendship changed. Hugo tried to keep Emma close, to protect him as much as possible. But deep inside he knew a storm was coming. Emma had stepped into a dark world, all because of a wrong assumption, a mistake that would cost more than he imagined. Emma didn't know what he had gotten himself into. He thought being in a cult meant protection, friendship, and respect. He didn't realize how fast things could turn dark. Just a few weeks after his initiation, Razor called him aside. "White Wolf," Razor said, using Emma's new code name. "It's time to prove yourself." Emma felt his stomach twist. He had heard about assignments, dangerous tasks given to new members to test their loyalty. Some involved fighting, some involved stealing, and some involved something worse. "What kind of assignment?" Emma asked, trying to sound bold. "There's a boy from the Black Vultures," Razor said coldly. "He insulted us, disrespected our brother. Tonight we send a message." Emma swallowed hard. "What do you mean?" Razor stepped closer and looked him in the eyes. "We're going to eliminate him. You'll come with us. Don't worry, we'll teach you how." Emma stood there, frozen. Eliminate? Did that mean kill? He had never held a real gun before, let alone used one. But he didn't want to appear weak. He knew what happened to those who backed out. They were beaten, punished, or worse, killed. He nodded slowly. "Good," Razor said with a wicked smile. "We move tonight. 1 a.m. Be ready." That night felt like the longest of Emma's life. He sat on his bed, shaking. He didn't tell Hugo. He couldn't. He stared at his hands and imagined blood on them. He wanted to run, to disappear, to undo everything. But there was no turning back. At 1 a.m., Razor and another boy named Bullet picked him up from the hostel. They wore black clothes and caps. They gave Emma a gun. It felt heavy and cold in his hands. "Just point and shoot," Bullet said. "Don't hesitate." They moved in silence, using back routes and shortcuts. After about 30 minutes, they found the boy. He was alone, smoking behind a club. "Happen quickly." Razor whispered the plan. Emma followed behind them, heart pounding like a drum. Razor shot first. Bullet followed. The boy screamed and fell. Emma stood, shocked, frozen. "Shoot!" Razor barked. Emma raised the gun with trembling hands. He didn't even know if he hit the body when he pulled the trigger, but the sound echoed in his soul. Then they ran. By the time they got back to the hostel, Emma's clothes were soaked in sweat. He went straight to the bathroom and stared at his reflection. He washed his hands again and again, but he couldn't wash away the feeling. The blood wasn't on his skin, it was in his mind. That night he didn't sleep. For the next few days, Emma couldn't concentrate. He avoided eye contact with everyone. He jumped at every sound. His dreams turned to nightmares. He saw the boy's face, frightened, dying, and heard the gunshots over and over again. He stopped attending classes. Whenever Hugo asked why, Emma gave excuses. "I'm just tired," he would say. "Not feeling well." But Hugo knew something was wrong. Emma wasn't the same. The lively, playful friend he once knew had disappeared. In his place was someone silent, cold, and distant. One day, Hugo entered their room and found Emma sitting on the floor, staring into space. "Emma, what's going on?" he asked softly. Emma didn't answer. Hugo sat beside him. "Talk to me, please." Emma looked at him, eyes filled with pain. "Why didn't you explain earlier, Hugo? Why didn't you just tell me the truth?" Hugo was quiet for a while. Then he replied, "You never asked." Emma sighed. "Maybe I wouldn't have joined if I understood." "I was trying to protect you," Hugo said. "If I had told you, you might have run straight to them. Sometimes silence is safer." Emma nodded slowly. Tears rolled down his cheeks. "I killed someone." Hugo's eyes widened. "They told me to. They made me do it," Emma whispered. "I didn't want to, but I was afraid. Now I can't sleep. I see his face every night." Hugo hugged him tightly. "You're not a monster, Emma. You made a mistake. But you're not alone." That moment was the first time Emma had cried in weeks. All the guilt and fear poured out. For days they didn't speak much. Their friendship became cold. Emma stayed in bed most times, staring at the ceiling. He didn't care about school anymore. The dream he once had, to graduate, get a good job, make his mother proud, felt far away now. He felt like a ghost living in his own body. But Hugo didn't give up on him. He started leaving food on Emma's table. He printed handouts and highlighted important notes. He even begged a lecturer to allow Emma to write a missed test. Slowly, Emma began to respond. He started reading again, just a little. He followed Hugo to night class one evening, sat in the corner and listened. Hugo would explain topics to him like old times. "Remember how we solved this in 100 level?" Hugo would say, smiling. Emma would nod, remembering the days when life was simple, and they were just boys with dreams. One night, after a long reading session, Emma looked at Hugo and said, "Thank you." Hugo smiled. "For what?" "For not giving up on me. I don't deserve it." "Of course you do," Hugo replied. "You're my brother." They shook hands. A deep silence followed. No more words were needed. Exam season came. Emma was still scared, still broken inside, but with Hugo's help, he managed to write all his papers. He didn't perform like he used to, but he passed. It was a small victory, but a powerful one. They knew life wouldn't return to normal. Emma had done something that couldn't be undone. He was trapped in a world that didn't forgive easily. But at least he wasn't alone. Hugo stayed close, always watching out for his friend. They never spoke about the killing again, but the bond between them remained. Not perfect, not like before, but still strong. Because despite everything, they were still brothers. Graduation day was like a dream. The campus was filled with excitement, laughter, and music. Students wore black gowns and square caps. Friends hugged each other. Parents wiped tears of joy from their eyes. Years of struggle, sleepless nights, and long lectures had finally come to an end. Hugo and Emma stood together in their gowns, smiling proudly. "We made it," Emma said, his voice full of emotion. "Yes," Hugo nodded, adjusting his cap. "Somehow we made it. It hadn't been easy. Their journey was full of storms, academic pressure, cult problems, mistakes, and pain. But this day felt like the reward after everything. They were finally free. Emma's mother was there, looking beautiful in her wrapper and head tie. She smiled as she watched her son talk with friends and classmates. "You look like your father today," she whispered, wiping her eyes. Hugo's parents came too. His father shook hands with his lecturers while his mother hugged him tightly, thanking God for his life. Cameras clicked. Students posed for selfies. Everyone wanted to capture the moment. Emma pulled Hugo aside. "Thank you for not giving up on me," he said quietly. "I know I dragged you into a lot of mess." "You dragged yourself," Hugo said with a half smile. "But I couldn't leave you. You're my guy." They both laughed and bumped fists. Later that afternoon, a group photo was about to be taken. Emma and Hugo stood in the front row, with their classmates and families behind them. The photographer adjusted the camera. "Smile," he said. Then it happened. Gunshots. Loud, sharp, terrifying. Up, up, up. Screams followed. People ran in every direction. Gowns flew into the air. Chairs fell. Parents grabbed their children. Some students dove under tables. The peaceful graduation ceremony turned into a war zone in seconds. Emma was the first to fall. One shot to the chest. He gasped, eyes wide with fear. Blood poured from his mouth as he fell into Hugo's arms. "Emma!" Hugo screamed, holding him tightly. Before he could even think, another bullet hit Hugo in the side. He groaned and dropped beside Emma, pain flooding through him. People ran past them, some trying to call for help, others just trying to escape. A group of masked boys disappeared into the crowd as quickly as they had come. They didn't stay. They had done what they came to do. It was revenge. The boy Emma had killed during his first cult assignment had been someone's brother, someone's friend. And today, after years of silence, they came to collect blood. Emma, the target, died almost instantly. But Hugo was shot simply for being close to him. Their families rushed to them. Hugo's mother screamed and held her son's face. "Stay with me, Hugo, please." Emma's mother knelt beside her son crying. "God, no. Not today. Not after everything." But it was too late. Paramedics came. The security team arrived. The graduation ceremony was cancelled. The music stopped. The joy disappeared. Two young men, full of potential, dreams, and promise, lay still on the ground. Their classmates cried. Their lecturers looked away, unable to believe what had just happened. The same boys who had asked questions in class, written assignments, struggled through final exams, were now gone. At the hospital, doctors tried to revive Hugo, but the bleeding was too much. His heart gave up. He was declared dead by 4:45 p.m. Emma had died on the spot. No pulse, no breath. Their names made the evening news. 2 students killed on graduation day. Everyone was shocked. Some blamed the school for poor security. Others blamed the cult boys. Some just wept in silence. Hugo and Emma were buried in their hometowns. At Hugo's burial, his father stood by the grave, shaking his head. He was going to be a great man. He wanted to help people. His mother fainted twice during the service. At Emma's burial, his mother wept uncontrollably. "I warned him. I begged him to focus. Why didn't he listen?" Many classmates attended both burials. They couldn't stop crying. Even those who barely knew them felt the pain. The university held a memorial for them weeks later. A hall was named after Hugo, for his academic brilliance and quiet leadership. Emma's name was added to the list of lives lost to cult violence. Back at the school hostel, their room remained empty. No one wanted to take it. Their books were still on the shelf. Notes, clothes, slippers, untouched. Their friends would walk past the door and pause, remembering the laughter and arguments, the all-night reading and shared meals. The school moved on as schools do. New students came. Old ones graduated. But the story of Emma and Hugo never left the campus. They became a lesson. Emma had joined a cult out of confusion and fear. He had wanted protection. He had wanted to be like Hugo, strong, respected, untouchable. But he misunderstood everything. And Hugo, he died for a mistake he never made. He wasn't a cultist. He never wanted violence. He just wanted peace. Their story became one that lecturers told during orientation. Don't make assumptions, they would say. Don't let pressure destroy your future. Students who visited the hall named after Hugo would pause at the small plaque outside. In memory of Ugachukwu, a brilliant mind, a kind soul. He stood by his friend until the end. On certain evenings, a few old friends would sit outside that hall and talk about them. Emma was so funny, one would say. He could make you laugh even when you were broke. Hugo was wise beyond his age, another would add. He made you believe in yourself. Their story stayed alive, not just as a tragedy, but as a warning, a reminder, and a celebration of two lives that touched many. Graduation day had come with joy, but it ended with sorrow. Two dreams ended that day. One joined out of confusion. The other died for a mistake he never made. Say no to cultism. It doesn't care about your dreams. It won't remember your family's sacrifices. It promises protection but delivers pain. It offers friendship but hides death. Hugo's story is not fiction. It's a warning. A voice for those who can no longer speak. Don't trade your future for fear. Don't exchange your life for lies. Choose peace. Choose purpose. Choose life. Say no to cultism before it says no to you.